As Nicola just finished saying, I'm Ruth Bryan.
And I'm Emily Collier.
And we'll be presenting on building a roadmap for web archiving organizational sustainability in an American research university library. We bring you greetings from the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky, a state in the upper southeast of the United States. Kentucky is part of the Bluegrass region, which is known for thoroughbred horses, bourbon whiskey, and basketball. The University of Kentucky is a research-intensive school founded in 1865 with 18 colleges, more than 33,800 students and 200 majors, and a total budget of $6.8 billion.
The web archiving program is housed in the Special Collections Research Center, which is part of the University of Kentucky Libraries. We preserve and provide access to websites and social media that are university permanent records, that support the Special Collections collecting priorities, and that support teaching and research. The program began in 2018 using Archivit, which is still our main platform today, and our total holdings include 4.7 terabytes and more than 82 million documents organized into 10 web archives collections.
Because the current 3-year Archivit subscription ends at the end of May, we decided to conduct a sustainability review of the program using both a practical framework and a conceptual framework. This review would then contribute to writing a proposal for a third 3-year subscription. The review team included myself and Emily, as well as Andrew McDonnell, the digital archivist who's also presenting here at IIPC, and Isaac Wink, the research data librarian. The practical framework we chose is the Socio-Technical Sustainability Roadmap. The STSR is a practical series of activities designed to answer the question, how long should this last at the beginning of a digital humanities project, and then to plan for that lifespan, taking into account the project's intellectual goals. The roadmap comprises 3 modules. Each module has 4 to 5 sections. Each section has an activity sheet and/or a spreadsheet to fill out. The roadmap should be reviewed and updated every 3 years of the project lifespan. Module A prompts the team to survey or scope the project, including articulating the project's lifespan, users, phase of development, and the project's significant properties, which include aspects such as access points, project deliverables, audiences, workflows and data flows, creative outputs, and intellectual goals. Our lifespan is permanent. Our users include researchers, university administration, web content creators, donors, and colleagues. Our phase of development ranges from mature to stable to baseline. Our current and in-development access points include, clockwise from top right, Archivit, our library guide to web archiving, our digital library, Explore UK, our library catalog, and the Special Collections Research Center website. Our current and proposed future project deliverables and intellectual goals include macro and micro archiving of selected online resources for legal and cultural heritage reasons. We create policies, procedures, trainings, and workflows for web archiving program management and curation. Our presentations and procedures contribute to the archival profession. We produce guides about the program for marketing, information, and publicity. And we depend on and build relationships with university and community stakeholders who opt in through deeds of gift to preserving their web content. We also offer an opt-out option through our takedown policy, although we have yet to receive such a request. Work and data flow through our web archiving program using a variety of platforms and tools, including, again, clockwise from the top right, the Archivit user interface for crawling administration and metadata, the web recorder archiveweb page for crawling social media, our archival collection management system ArchiveSpace for collection metadata, Trello for project management, Google Drive, which houses our working documents, and the Special Collections server partitions, where we store the final versions of our manuals and reports. In immediate future development is Zapier to automate data sharing between the University Web Development Group and our web archiving Trello board. In the next 3 years, we would like to pilot the Archives Research Compute Hub for using web content as data and plausible analytics to better understand how our Archivit content is used. That was only section A. Section B prompts consideration of who is on the project team and what their roles are and what the technological infrastructure of the project is. You then develop a socio-technical responsibility checklist that maps staff onto their technology responsibilities, taking into account how and for how long staff and technologies are funded. For example, our main technology for web archiving is Archivit, which is funded through the libraries and which we anticipate needing indefinitely. Emily, as the web archiving specialist and assistant university archivist, has a variety of responsibilities for web archiving and is currently in a permanent position funded by the libraries. Section C prompts the project team to build digital sustainability plans using a modified version of the National Digital Stewardship Alliance's levels of digital preservation. For each of the 6 functional areas, a table outlines a series of specific actions that can be taken to sustain digital projects with levels from 1, minimum, to 4, high. This is a summary of our current and desired levels for access, backing up, permissions, metadata, file formats, and data integrity levels of preservation. In general, we were pleased to find that our levels are good for the small amount of staff we have doing web archiving. The file formats area didn't apply as the WARC/WAC-Z format is the only one currently. And all of these areas are high priority for us, and we would like to improve our sustainability across all. We added a level 5 for functional areas that we would like to sustain beyond or differently from the original levels. The team then created our digital sustainability plan checklist, the final outcome of the STSR. The checklist aggregates all the modules' work to create a comprehensive list of sustainability actions and their required staffing, technologies, and funding that can be accomplished within the 3-year timeframe. We identified 10 actions across all functional areas. Here are 4 of those. Some of them support sustainability in multiple functional areas.
For our conceptual framework, we chose a 9-dimensional framework for digital cultural heritage organizational sustainability. Eschenfelder and 5 other co-authors analyzed a sample of library and information science literature from 2000 to 2015 and developed definitions and coding rules for 9 dimensions of organizational sustainability. Their definition of sustainability is, quote, the arrangements of people and work practices that keep digital projects and services going over time, given ongoing challenges. The 9 dimensions that support that definition include technology, management, relationships, revenue, costs, valued product service, disaster planning, legal policy issues, and metrics and assessment, and I will summarize these very briefly. Our understanding of their discussion of technology included subthemes like standards in areas like metadata and file formats, types and characteristics of software, whether they be commercial or open source, standard or common, backups and redundancies in preservation, and technology documentation. Management related to areas such as strategic planning, market research and/or marketing to identify audiences and services, stakeholder engagement, developing formal policies and procedures in contrast to ad hoc decision-making, and developing managerial skills. Relationships dealt with areas like collaboration, pooling resources, streamlining processes, and strategic partnerships with resource-rich partners. These partnerships can allow organizations to reap the benefits of the social capital or reputation of that higher resource partner.
Sorry. I'm wasting time.
Do you need to go
back? There we go. Okay.
Revenue is required to sustain projects and can come from a variety of sources, such as endowments, donors, sponsorship, operating budget grants, and more. And this is always made easier if your institution has a good reputation. An interesting thing to note here is that startup funding is not considered the same as sustainable funding. So grant money, for example, is not going to weigh the same as operating budgets in terms of revenue. Costs must be accounted for in both relation to expenditures and ongoing maintenance, so hard data is needed for costs, but the 9 dimensions does point out that while that can create transparency and accountability, it might actually hurt sustainability because it makes it easier for funders to make targeted cuts. For valued product and services, user wants and needs must be kept in mind when offering tools and services, and getting continuous feedback is always important because those needs are rarely static. An interesting subtheme also talked in relation to product value service was thinking about how value specifically can lead people into new ways of using project data that might not have been conceptualized at the time that data was created. Disaster planning relates to subthemes like natural disaster, technology failures, human error or malfeasance, the cessation of the organization itself, and how to plan for the maintenance of your digital objects against these disasters. Legal policy involves the balance of collecting, accessing, and using works against copyright and other legal considerations. And then finally, metrics and assessment seeks project evaluation and can be inward-facing, focusing on internal planning and risk management, or outward-facing, demonstrating needs and impacts to stakeholders. These 9 dimensions outline an idealized concept of what the sustainability should look like, so we took those ideas and we overlapped them with the STSR. So this Gantt chart represents that crosswalk where the blue squares indicate the overlaps we found between the STSR and the 9 dimensions, and this led us to help identify some of the pertinent issues in our web archiving sustainability, including gaps where we expected connections. So for example, in section A1 of the STSR about project scope, we noticed that when considering project deliverables and team workflows, the management dimension doesn't include planning for changes in acquisition and description, which is a constant not just in web archiving, but digital archiving generally.
In section B1 about the project team, we noticed an interaction between the technology and management dimensions that isn't covered by the STSR. We benefit in many ways from the services Archivit provides for web archiving, but as we rely on just the one platform, we are also constrained by their capability and their development timeline and priorities, which might not align with our own. However, the crosswalk brought to the forefront previously hidden interactions across the management, valued product, relationships, and disaster planning dimensions in relation to project team members. The web archiving program currently has libraries administrative support, but is in 3-year cycles. In addition, we have begun a collaboration with the university's central web development team. They will be providing us a master list of URLs and social media accounts in exchange for the value of the web preservation we provide, which they can use for their own continuity of business needs. Both of these situations still rely on short-term support or on individual interest, which could stop or fall through at any time. We need to sell the value of web archiving to the extended team members and stakeholders we identified in Module B to prevent the disaster of withdrawal of support.
Moving on to section B3 of the STSR, in which we merged information about team members and their funding with technologies and their funding, we noticed interactions among management, technology, metrics assessments, and cost dimensions that the roadmap didn't really address. So we need to track and log not just costs for the team and technologies, but also the overall capacity for web archiving that our current funding level supports, in that there is a total cost of stewardship that we need to calculate. So for example, even with our robust curation documentation, team members still need to continue learning and developing skills, which then adds to costs. And adding a new technology, for example, our upcoming adaptation of Zapier, adds also to the cost of stewardship. So team members must not only update their skills, but then also develop and assess new workflows. So to sustain the web archiving program for the long term, we will need to demonstrate to our stakeholders, particularly our funders, that this total cost of the program, the total cost of stewardship, produces a valued product. And we need to expand our capacity to do this through gathering and analyzing usage and other metrics.
In the C4 section of the STSR, the review team evaluated our web archiving permissions functional area and identified overlaps in this section among the management, relationships, and disaster planning dimensions. Specifically, trust in the integrity of existing and future team members and stakeholders is key. For example, we have given login permissions to the university web developers to our Archivit account, trusting that they wouldn't compromise our work. And we can skip the next slide. Sure. Legal.
Not addressed.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, by going through this review, we found that our program is more sustainable than we thought, which is great. And by working through as a team with both the practical and the conceptual sustainability framework and crosswalking them, we identified areas of success and weakness, as well as issues that we might not have noticed otherwise. And we found applicable solutions to some of our gaps. So some of those issues include the complexity and constant change of the university website and reliance on a single vendor, some solutions we came up with, building relationships, automating processes, backing up works locally, expanding logs and documentation. We also rely too much on individual support and goodwill, and our access and discoverability is underdeveloped. Solutions, just demonstrating value to stakeholders by developing metric tools and prioritizing descriptive metadata. And then finally, we have developed our own definition of sustainability for web archives, modified from the original Eschenfelder to this: the ability to arrange and maintain people, resources, work practices that keep projects functional and accessible over time, given ongoing challenges.
Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.